Hello and welcome. My name is Steph, and in this episode, I'm going to be giving you a quick guide to spiritual awakening. There is going to be a second part to this. I am going to be diving into my own experience with spiritual awakening in part 2. And if you're in a place where you're feeling down on your physical and mental health, I created a beautiful experience that guides you with love and compassion to heal your gut and your overall health. It's called Live Clean and Flourish, and if you think that would benefit you, I invite you to check that out. So, a spiritual awakening is a process, and it's a process getting to the start of your spiritual awakening, and it's a process going through the awakening itself. And the yogic texts state that it takes many lifetimes to achieve the state of starting your awakening process. So if you are deep in it and you're feeling like a victim to it, just remember that we have been working for lifetimes to get to this point, that we want this to happen. I think oftentimes these awakenings are so jarring. We get there and we don't want it. We want our old life to stay. We are clinging to the old ways that are not serving us, and we feel like a victim to what's happening to us. But just remember, you want this, and this is all going to work out for your highest good. In the early stages of an awakening, we are often filled with feelings of love and joy and peace and gratitude. But it's when you get into the deeper, darker stages of awakening that can feel pretty jarring. When I was in the earlier stages of my awakening, I didn't feel that I needed guidance or any help because nothing was wrong. Everything was great. But once I fell into the deeper phases of my awakening, I felt lost, confused, sad, and I started looking for answers. And that led me to a book called The Journey of Soul Initiation by Bill Plotkin. This book helped me because it provided me with a map and a sense of reasoning and a path for where my awakening was going and where I could see myself in my awakening process. So Bill Plotkin likens the awakening process to a canyon. On the top of the canyon, on the cliff, is preparation. You're standing on the edge. You're not going to jump in because you have to make sure your parachute is ready before you jump. And he talks about this phase as being a time of healing and self-holing. The yogic texts talk about Kundalini awakening, turning people crazy, and that's because those people weren't prepared for their awakening. So preparation is a very important phase. This phase I didn't consciously approach. I think just throughout my lifetime, and the things I've encountered conditioned me and prepared me for the natural awakening that I was going to experience. So after preparation, once you jump off the cliff, you are going down into the canyon, and this descent is called the disillusion phase. This is when your life seemingly is falling apart. You don't know why it's happening to you. You feel kind of miserable, lost, confused. For me, the stage was when I woke up to my husband having narcissistic personality disorder, and then I initiated a divorce. And then, long story short, 8 months later, I quit my very toxic job that I had endured for 10 years. And these two events threw me into a deep, dark phase of my awakening. On the bottom of the canyon, we have a soul encounter. This is where you're asking deep questions about your identity, who you really are, what your role is here in this world. You're waking up to patterns. You are waking up to your conditioning. You feel that you're in this dark place, but there's a paradox here. It feels dark, but it's also illuminating. You see things so much more clearly. You wake up to who you really are. And then the fourth phase is metamorphosis. This is the ascent out of the canyon on the other side. And this is the state that is commonly known as the liminal phase or the cocoon phase. In metamorphosis, you are changing, you are reformulating. You're releasing a lot of old emotions, ways of thinking, ways of being. You're restructuring internally, mentally, and emotionally and physically. This phase of metamorphosis can feel so challenging because you are no longer the caterpillar and you are not yet the butterfly. You are breaking down and reconstituting. It's scary because you don't know who you are. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what's next. There's so much uncertainty. It's very scary being in a state where you don't know who you are anymore and you don't know what's coming next. But eventually, towards the end of the metamorphosis stage, you emerge as the butterfly and you come back onto the other side of the canyon, and that is the enactment phase. You come out of your experience a new person with great wisdom, and you have gifts you realize that you need to share with the world. It is very scary going from the end of this metamorphosis stage into the enactment stage because you don't feel worthy. This is where imposter syndrome comes in. You feel so new and almost like you don't deserve to be sharing your gifts or speaking on the topic. In Bill Plotkin's books, he says eventually you just have to step into the fire. If you don't, your gifts and what you came to do in this world, it will haunt you and it will not leave you alone. You can try to ignore it and it will just eat away at you. You will have no choice but to share your gifts and your message with the world. In the darker phases of the awakening process, when you're in the canyon, disillusion, soul encounter, and metamorphosis, you're going to likely be experiencing a lot of purging. You will swing between purging and filling. For me, this looked like I was having intense emotional purges. 38, 39 years of repressed emotions coming out in layers. Kind of started with not feeling loved by my family, and it just escalated from there. I've had these purges where they take me out for a few days. My brain feels empty. My energy body feels empty. My physical body and emotional bodies feel empty. All I can really do during these times was rest and give myself the space to let the purge occur, let the feelings come out. But after a purge, then I would have a feeling of lightness and my energy would come back. I'd be more productive again. For about 3 months, I swung between these deep purges and getting my energy back and carrying on. Deep purge, get my energy back and carry on. And there's a paradox with this purging because when you're emptied like that, you realize you know nothing. But as you're filled, you realize that you hold great wisdom. During these purges, you have this immense sense of humility and humbleness. And somewhere along the way on your awakening process, you will be opened up to guidance, whether this comes in the form as guidance from your soul or your higher self, or divine guidance from God or the Creator, or your guides or angels, or maybe benevolent ancestors, or some other higher beings. For instance, I was guided to create this podcast. It didn't make any logical sense to me because I'm a holistic health coach. And yes, there is a link between spirituality and holistic health. But my ego did not see my path moving forward as looking like this. And as my guidance nudged me towards creating this podcast and speaking on these topics, I was triggered to feel, who am I to talk about this? Who am I to be, in a sense, almost a spiritual teacher and to guide people on their own spiritual paths? I came down in tears while receiving guidance and working on this, thinking, who am I to be worthy of doing this? But as I started digging into my past, digging through my experiences, I realized, yes, I am worthy to talk about this. Through the guidance I receive and my process of awakening, I'm learning that this is part of my purpose, to guide others and shine light in areas of darkness. So sometimes the guidance you receive during your awakening process might not make any logical sense to you, but it is leading you towards your highest good. And sometimes that doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look easy. It looks hard and scary and challenging. And sometimes it looks downright wrong. I was guided to marry my husband. And when I woke up to that, I felt very confused. Why would I be guided to marry him? But it triggered my awakening. It triggered me to see myself and others in a new light. So trust your guides, whoever they are working for your highest good, no matter how challenging that may feel in the moment. These challenges are massive growth opportunities that you need to grow, and they are guiding you to where you need to go. So if you're in these deeper, darker stages of an awakening, hang in there. Trust that only good is going to come of this. It's easy to feel like a victim during your awakening. On one of my walks in recent months, I got the insight that I don't have to be a victim of my awakening experience. I can approach it as a curious explorer. I can go off the trail. I can dig deep for hidden treasures. I could even be the conqueror of my own journey. The journey itself is not to be conquered, but my limiting beliefs and other internal thought forms do need to be conquered. So if you're feeling very victimized by your experience, try taking that curious explorer perspective. In part 2, I'm going to be sharing my awakening story and the clues my soul has left me along the way. I'll also be sharing what I've been experiencing in recent months during the deeper, darker phases of my awakening. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.